Welcome to Commerce Media Matters, your go-to podcast for unpacking the world of commerce media. Here, we catch up with industry leaders on news, research, insights, perspectives, and everything in between.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Paul. Welcome back to Commerce Media Matters. But today we're taking a slight detour from the focus on commerce media. We're going a bit broader. We've discussed a bit of AI, so we're going to spin off and really double down on AI and the word of AI and look at things through a bit of a different lens today.
That's right. Our guest today is none other than John Blackburn AO, a name that carries serious weight in the world of defence, national security and strategic policy. John's career spans decades from flying F-18 fighter jets and serving as Deputy Chief of the Royal Australian Air Force to becoming a sought-after consultant in security and AI strategy. In recognition of his service and leadership, he was appointed an officer in the military division of the Order of Australia, which is the AO in your title.
Full disclosure, we're not related. We've the great last names, but not related.
Somewhere in the deep, dark past in Lancashire we were.
Maybe.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
While deeply rooted in defence and national security, John has increasingly turned his focus to the practical applications and challenges of AI, consulting for startups and contributing to initiatives like the AI CoLab Alliance in Canberra. But John isn't just an expert in security. He's also been an avid listener of this very podcast.
Keeping us honest.
Absolutely.
Texting you.
And as a former advisory board member of Voodoo, he's been a huge supporter of what we do. And after tuning in to our 2025 Trends episode, where we touched on AI, John had a few thoughts he'd like to share. So naturally, we thought he'd get you in on the mic. So let's jump into it.
Perfect.
Welcome to the podcast,
Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
So, John, earlier this year, you listened to our episode on AI and the role it has on search and how it's reshaping the entire way we search the internet. And the thing that I pointed out in that episode was right now AI is giving you the answer. The answer's on the screen and it's what you do next. You reached out to us with a slightly different perspective, cautioning us against the view that it's giving you the answer. And so we'd like to unpack that a little bit today.
Yeah, sure.
So what do you think about the biggest misconceptions about AI's capabilities are?
Well, when that question came up, I thought I'd ask ChatGPT. So
Of course you did.
I'll start this with, what does ChatGPT say the misconceptions are? The number one is that one misconception is that AI actually understands meaning like humans do. It doesn't understand concepts because that's not the case, depending which AI you're talking about. If it's machine learning, it's pattern matching. If it's large language models, it's statistical prediction of the next word. Mm-hmm. The latest technology, which is not out in public yet, at the level above we can talk about later, but it doesn't have lived experience, it doesn't have emotional intelligence, but neither do a lot of blokes either, and it can't reason. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing technology. It really is incredibly useful if people take the time to try and learn about it and understand it. Because it's basically seductive. You can ask a question, ChatGPT or one of these other systems, and it reads wonderfully, and it's mostly really good if you ask it a simple question. If you ask it a complicated question repeatedly, you'll get probably a different answer each time. It's an excellent tool, but it's not intelligent, but it's here. It's going to get more important in our lives, so we've got to take the time to understand it and how to use it.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier before the podcast today. Your advice was something along the lines of we've got to treat it like our long-time loyal employees. Like they get things wrong. You know, we get things wrong. We have bad days. And so I think your advice, correct me if I'm wrong, was that we need to ask the questions. We need to query the responses that we're getting from the AI agents.
We need to be intelligent.
Absolutely. So what I'm using AI for at the moment is a project that I've been doing almost manually for the last 6 years. I've had 250 people involved from around the world, domain experts looking at the resilience of Australia. So we looked at energy systems and health, technology, research, basically economy. And we said, how resilient are we as a country? So that was a lot of work we pulled together, and then to integrate it into an overall picture, myself and Anne, my wife, sat down and pulled the summaries together to create an overall picture. It's incredibly difficult to do that as a human being because it's so complicated. So as I've seen the latest tools emerge, I've teamed up with a company in Canberra called Dragonfly, and we're trying to use this latest generation of AI, which is cognitive architectures. So it actually models how people think and make decisions, and what's called agentic AI, so agents. And these are basically agents that are created to look at something through the eyes of whether it's a policy maker or a commercial business person or public. So I'm using those tools now to try and take all that work we did over a couple of years, put it through there to see what it does. So the way I look at this, imagine looking at a complex business problem or everything else, and you've got a group of your team members around you, and they're smart, they've been around. If you asked a complicated question to the people at the table, you'd probably get a slightly different or could be different answer between each of the folks, and you'd listen to it.
Because it comes from their area of expertise.
Of course.
Yeah.
Also, unintentionally, people aren't perfect. Their memory's not there. They might make a mistake. If they're inexperienced, you might say, hey, interesting point. Can you tell me how you came to that conclusion? What's your research? And that's what you expect with human beings. But the value is all those different perspectives. And then you have a conversation together and go, okay, then you as a team make a decision. AI is one of those team members. But before you go and go, what's the meaning of life? Then you need to research yourselves to understand what the question is you've got.
The prompt.
And then spend a bit of time learning about it. And it could be just Google searches, it could be reading documents. In our case, it was producing a lot of studies. Once you've got that picture in your mind, then your AI team member comes along because they've got amazing memory. They can do things so quickly. And you use them to help you and your team build a better understanding. And once you do that, okay, it hallucinates occasionally, so do people. It can have bad days, but it's a really valuable team member.
I just want to pick up on one of the points there. The metaphor you were using was you had your team of experts, and obviously they'll have different opinions around the table if you were just in a board meeting having a discussion. AI is a little bit the same, but going a bit deeper, if you look at something like Elon's Grok model, he has deliberately wanting to go anti-woke with it, which means it's trained to have an opinion to be anti-woke, versus OpenAI, which is a little bit more the whole internet's view, versus an agent that's been trained just from a legal perspective on just the legal opinion. And it's very similar concept. And there's a great experiment that I saw with Reid Hoffman where he got 5 different phones to do a brainstorm with, and each of the 5 different phones had a different type of agent. One was the black hat, one was the positive person, the naysayer, etc. And it was the range of opinions, just like that board table. So is that what you're sort of talking about here?
Pretty much too, but you're going to understand AI is effectively based upon all the data it took in and where it was trained. And it is biased to the West and it's biased to males. And that means that its view of the world, which includes all the rubbish we put out there, is biased. So I was in UAE recently talking to their governments about how they're looking at risk. Well, how would a country in the United Arab Emirates use an AI that's been trained to not think, but based on the West? So one of the challenges we're looking at is how do you take those large language models and then using agents look through the lens of the culture of the company or the country you're in. What we are seeing is changes as well, just for fun. I was trying to produce an image of a large orange fungus wearing a red tie and a MAGA hat.
Just for fun.
Just for fun, to send to a friend. OpenAI won't let you do that if you ask it to do it of Trump, and it won't let you do it with a MAGA hat. So I made it a Gaga hat, which is probably pretty appropriate to what's going on. But it's interesting, those controls, and we've seen how some of the US technology companies are being very careful of not upsetting President Trump. We're going to see those controls move, they'll adapt, and you have to understand that nothing is unbiased.
Well, I mean, even the deep seeks, and I mean, obviously they're going to have a Chinese policy bias.
Yes, absolutely. Now, if you understand that, it's like having someone in the room who's an expert in a particular area or from another country. They have a different worldview. Fine. But let's listen to what their worldview is, and then the human makes the decision about what you do with it. You just don't go, oh, I want to ask a question to ChatGPT, and once it says something, I'm going to do it. That's not intelligent use.
So this is moving at such a pace. Humanity's, I would dare say, slamming into this right now. We've touched on it, and in regards to the Hoffman test, we've talked about triple modular redundancy before, especially in flying, but also it's used across multi-industries. Do you think that...
We've gone to a place on this podcast, say that again.
Triple modular redundancy.
Wow.
Audience, you can look that up.
It's actually a real term. It applies to avionics and airplanes.
But it's actually quite appropriate for this conversation in regards to protections.
Yep.
Can we just break down exactly what triple redundancy is?
Yeah, imagine you're driving a car and there's 3 people in the back seat and things are going along pretty happy and they're going, this is fine, I'm fine. And then one of them goes, no, this is a real problem. And the other 2 go, no, it's not. Be a good idea for Dad in the front seat to know that there's a bit of disagreement if something's going wrong here. It's not telling you what's going wrong. So in an aeroplane, you've got 3 systems running in parallel. All you want to know is there a disagreement between those systems about what it's telling the pilot?
And then you as the pilot can make a judgment call.
You've got an informed decision that you
Because
can make.
like if you're sitting on...
There's three systems,
Yes.
and it's so you triple checked,
Yeah.
and you know if one disagrees with the other, and then
Yeah.
because you're using them as tools,
Yeah.
the pilot or the human can still make the decision.
Right. So basically, if one goes batshit, the other two, okay, the system will run on those two, but you want to know about it.
Yeah.
Because people put complete faith in some of these avionics systems when, with the amount of years I've had, I always question it because it's just a system. It's been designed wonderfully, but you want to be told when to wake up there could be something here. So that's basically what it is. So just think, you've got the kids in the back seat going, Dad's lost the plot.
Well, I mean, I think that is a great way to look at AI, is that
Absolutely.
we should be not trusting the answer. We should be querying the answers. We should be using different models to check, as you mentioned before, John. So I think it's a really relevant
Spot on.
point.
So one of the things I've been suggesting, again, I'm not a technology, I'm not an engineer, I'm just me a test pilot, whatever. But my test pilot background is what brings me looking at a lot of things. How do we test and evaluate something like this? Because our test evaluation processes are generally based on a specification, a performance measure, and it's repeatable. That's not going to happen here. So what I've suggested is we have to start using AIs to monitor each other. So in avionics, generally you have three systems in an airliner and they're all doing the same thing and looking at each other. And what you want is the pilot to be told that system over there is doing something completely different to that one. So you'll now pay attention and look at it. The question I've been asking is, that's what we need to do. So I've been talking to groups of lawyers about law of armed conflict. How can we have AI cross-check ourselves? So that's something we have to think about, how we use these tools, which are here, they've been here for a while, but you have to understand the design. I'll give you one example. The basic level where it's machine learning is having a huge amount of application, whether it's for radiology and they've got millions of scans that's tasking. I've seen other applications in some of the work that I've done. What they train the machine learning AI on is the data they're thinking about. In other words, people say, well, what data should be? The example we had, they were trying to understand air traffic control patterns as people are coming into land and get a bit of a trigger for the air traffic controllers. Well, this aeroplane might not be able to land or something's not quite right. When they looked at all the parameters, they were physical. Because I've got a lot of aviation experience, what I said to the developers, you've missed out a really important parameter here. You're looking at the technical. You're not looking at the social side. The social side is, how were those pilots trained? Is there an authority gradient in the cockpit? So what I mean in an aeroplane, you have to have the crews being completely open with each other saying, I think there's a problem. Under some cultures, that's not acceptable. So if the captain's sitting there and the co-pilot's not prepared to go, hey, I think you're doing something dumb, then you're lining yourself up for an accident. The people designing the machine learning tools are looking through a technical lens, which is great. But the thing you have to think about with any AI, you can't just look through the technical lens. You have to look through the social lens, the sociology. And so in the advanced AI areas, it's not just technical. The architectures they're doing are looking at the human side of it. So machine learning is great. Have they made a mistake with the data they gave it? And is the data they gave it, radiology scans was one example I read about, it doesn't know what it's looking at. It's just purely looking at pattern matching. And what example I read about, and I haven't verified it, but apparently when you're doing cancer scans, sometimes there'll be a transparent ruler in the image because they're trying to measure the size of the tumour. Well, a lot of those scans were cancerous.
Yeah.
So one of the AI systems they were using had decided if there was a transparent ruler in there, it was probably cancerous. Which is, human would go, well...
Because of the pattern, right?
But yeah,
Because
right,
of
it's a
pattern
pattern.
matching.
Now, that's not denigrating it because AI is a magnificent work of engineers and mathematicians and software developers. It's fantastic. But understand what the limitation is. And when you see something, ask an intelligent question of yourself because we can do things that no AI system can do. AI can do things that we can't do, but together there's a possibility.
So, John, LLMs like ChatGPT, Gemini, Notebook LM have made AI feel accessible. I mean, I think Mo Godot, who is Chief Innovation Officer at Google once upon a time, was saying that, the GPT was the Netscape moment. It's the browser for now using AI. But you pointed out there's fundamental limitations. So what do you think the biggest blind spots are on how business are using these tools today?
Well, if it's just complete trust. So I've sat in rooms when people asked, what would you like to use it for? In government, bureaucracy, some people say, well, the minister's asked me a question. I need to get an answer. I want to chat in ChatGPT, get a nice document within an hour that I can give back as the answer. And my answer is that, well, you're going to set up the minister for failure one day and you'll probably lose your job. But if you look at it intelligently, the tool is amazingly powerful. But something like Notebook LM Plus, which I use all the time, it's a great tool. You put all your documents and sources in there. So you're not just searching the wide net, you've put all the source documents in there. But the way the process works, it gives equal validity or value to each of the documents you put in. Instead of saying, well, these are high trust documents, I might go off and check these, or these I don't trust, particularly if it's a government policy paper. But the other thing it doesn't do, it doesn't understand the temporal dimension. So if a document is 10 years old, you want to be really careful about saying that what is happening today is that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't understand through time. Now, the way around that is what I'm doing is when I've got a very complex problem, I'll open up multiple Notebook LM Plus projects. I'll put the very high trusted documents in one, I'll put the theoretical stuff in another one, and I'll put the agent results we're running in another one. So I can now realise where the confidence is. We need to get to a stage where you could say to the AI, I want you to go off and check all these documents here because of this. We're not at that level of sophistication yet. I've talked to Google Labs and it will eventually come. But you understand the inherent limitations of the tool, then you still use them.
Yeah.
A lot of it becomes in how you prompt it. Sometimes if you have 20 documents and you ask a question, because of some token limit or something, it gives you a short answer. You don't know if it's actually looked at all of them, so you have to say, I want you to look at every single document there and do the following.
Be very descriptive.
And then you'll get a different answer. What we found once you get to the agent level, you can get this summaries happening, like thousands of documents will come up with a 4-page bullet point summary. Once you start to get to the agentic AI stuff, then we can come up with a 20 or 30 page or whatever you want with more detail. That can be useful. So they're a basic tool. It's a good start, but you have to use them in different ways that address their limitations, which means you have to take the time to understand it.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to get an answer.
Yep.
Now, if it's a simple question, what's the capital of France or something, you're pretty sure if it says anything apart from Paris, it's wrong. But the hallucination bit, the errors are quite interesting. We found in some of the work that when a hallucination happens, we go, oh, we hadn't thought about that. And we're actually using the hallucination.
This is the limitations, right? This is something we need to safeguard against.
Yeah. Can go down a new rabbit hole that can be very productive.
Yeah.
But you treat it cautiously.
Yep.
But we seem to think that at this early stage of technology, it should be perfect. Well, humans aren't perfect. We never will be.
And we're inherently lazy. So if it gives you an answer that looks impressive, you take that answer.
Yeah,
like you said,
absolutely.
you could run into the boss. Here's the document. I've checked it. Looks good. But because you didn't ask it enough questions, it could be a bit wrong. And
Correct. You didn't actually take the time to do it.
The lawyers in the US and Australia were putting up, precedents, case studies that were completely made up. If they just have someone check it. So we need an AI agent that will go back and check all your references. And so is that technically feasible? Yes.
Yeah.
But we just have to do it.
I mean, because imagine putting it into Gemini, who's going to use sources from Reddit, and we know how crazy some of the opinions on Reddit could be, and putting a high value on some of the opinions there that are not based on fact, that are fictitious or a left-leaning or a right-leaning group, and you're then providing that to your boss as a report. That's when we're going to run into trouble.
Well, this comes with safeguards, right? We need deeper and broader safeguards with regards to
I'd be careful about that because it's a statistical. You can't put a safeguard around it. You can put some boundaries.
Yeah, what do you think?
You can put
What do we do?
boundaries. It's about education.
Right.
So the challenge is going to be is how even at schools we start to educate students to understand and get at a habit pattern. The risk of large amounts of use of some of these AI tools is they stop you thinking. And so there is a concern in some of the trials they've done that when you're using an AI tool, your cognitive activity decreases because I'm just asking questions and it looks good. We've got to be very careful about that because human ingenuity and intelligence is something you have to work on. It's just you have to exercise it. So
I'm still working on mine.
Every day.
And so one of the things we've suggested in the agents is that you need an AI agent that is inside the AI system that watches the user to work out have they gone to sleep because they're just pressing.
I need an AI agent.
Because they're pressing the auto button like keep generating. And what we need to do is have somebody that requires the user to think. So you can come back and say, okay, you've asked that, but I need you to make a decision about these options. And it causes the user to think. Otherwise, we'll become like drones. Here's an answer.
Yeah.
I think it's Sam Altman, but every time he has a press conference about a new AI, the mothers and the fathers in the room ask, what do we tell our kids to do? If AI is going to replace all these tasks, etc. And the thing that these senior people that are right in the midst of these AI models keep saying is that critical thinking, that question asking that humans do so well, because you can't trust what this stuff's going to send back.
But you can't trust people as well. So let's be honest about it. So it's a team member and we educate. The challenge will be is getting education systems. I know friends of mine who've been trying to work with school principals, trying to get the education departments and systems to look at this, because people in the bureaucracy, by and large, are overwhelmed with the day-to-day business they're doing, like in government bodies. And they're really having a hard time understanding what's happening. So there was a review done recently by the tax office using Microsoft Copilot. And it rightly said, oh, look, it was hallucinating. We don't think there's any use. Okay, but did they think about educating the people before the trial of what AI is about, explaining to them how you use multiple tools to cross-check, and therefore you can get some use out of it? Not from the report I've seen as, Copilot doesn't work, not using. Yeah. There's the problem. So it's going to take time to educate people and show them how to do it. But I mean, some very educated people say, just give me the list of prompts. Yeah. Okay, but what's the problem you're looking at?
Taking that example, it's a nice segue to the next question. It's the whole garbage in, garbage out. So again, on that taxation department, what data was the Copilot model trained on? Yeah. Because if you don't give it the right data to start with and you ask it a question, you're not going to get the right answer.
Yeah. But again, what we say to people, it's a support tool. So you have to do a certain amount of research yourself beforehand. So you've got a general idea of the problem space. A lot of people will go asking questions about symptoms rather than what the problem is. So you need to lift yourself above the symptoms. What is the issue we're looking at? What's the context? Yeah. And then once you've got that in your mind and you've done some research, now let's get AI to help us. If you go the other way, you basically, whatever it tells me. Now, this is not necessarily applying to how AI is used in a machine learning in a transaction on thing, but it's changing so rapidly that developers such as Voodoo need to think about what's coming in the next couple of generations of AI to make sure, because you can look at this through the user perspective, your customers and your users, how do you keep them informed? How do you advise them, but also how do you protect them?
Yep.
And that's the onus, I think, that comes on companies from both a brand and a legal liability perspective. But it's changing so quickly, you almost need, there's no such thing as an AI expert, but you need a team that starts saying, okay, what's going to happen next?
Well, this is what we touched on in regards to ethical considerations. Yeah. AI-driven solutions, or like the security and issues around consumer data. We're going to have to see a lot of legislation come in. We're going to see some changes in regards to how we protect consumers.
There will be, but how the hell do you find it? This comes back to the test and evaluation. When something doesn't do repeatable behaviour, how do you test it? So what I do is I run multiple queries of the same question and then use another AI program to aggregate all the answers, remove duplication. And ChatGPT Canvas is great at doing that. You remove duplication and then you look at the situation there. How do you actually put rules and boundaries on something that's moving very quickly? And the problem with rules and boundaries sometimes is they can be very simplistic. Now, the thing with social media going on now, I certainly support what the government's trying to do with the regulations. Yep. But by itself, it's nowhere near adequate because this issue's got away from us. It's caused huge problems of mental health, particularly in the US so far, and it's starting to do it here. So the reaction is, I'll put a regulation. Okay, let's have a little bit more of a thought about that. What do you have to do on the education side? You can't put everybody in cotton wool and expect this world to work, but what's the risk? I don't have children, but everyone I talk to, my relatives with kids, you're so busy trying to get everything done in your life. It's very hard to then think, how do I prepare my child for what's coming up?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we've got to be careful about over-regulation, but certainly something that is clearly deceptive or it's actually being manipulated by somebody to do a political ruin, then, I'd agree with controlling that. And as decisions have been made in Australia by government agencies, don't put DeepSeek inside a government system.
Yeah.
Because it's a Trojan horse.
Absolutely.
So in the media and commerce space, especially, so bringing it back to the core of our podcast is about, AI is being rapidly deployed for content generation, for, you've seen some of the video models and what they can do with, it's almost cinema quality. I've seen Star Wars fans and boffins creating new episodes of Star Wars and it almost looks as good as, probably better than the original Lucasfilm stuff. What do you see the issues are there for commerce strategies and for media strategies? We've seen some businesses start to use AI and declare it in their advertisements. They saw some in the Super Bowl with mixed reactions from the public. What do you see developing
I
there?
think the most important thing is be honest with your customers. In other words, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing about trying to make it as safe as possible, but things are moving very quickly. So you give them the caution. Like ChatGPT has a caution right across the bottom.
Yeah, be very transparent.
Be transparent about it. Secondly, think about how you use AI to identify problems in the social media. A real simple one is if somebody makes a claim, then you get an AI routine that goes back and checks, is that claim actually correct as best as we can from what's out there? So media, the list of Trump's lies, for example, that we're keeping track of it, people do that themselves. We should be able to have AI agents get something in and go, right, I'm going to do a quick check of all the other sources to see, like triple model redundancy, something doesn't look right there. You can't rely on humans to do that because the scale of what's happening. So you start to do AI, what I've called red agents. So you have a red team in a company which looks at where your product can go wrong or how it can be attacked. So you have an AI red team that goes, agent, and says, okay, I'm seeing this type of video, I'm seeing this. Is there something that doesn't quite look right? So use AI and the agentic layer as a tool to help protect your customers and in doing so, protect yourself.
And do you think we can see, like I'm looking forward to having my own personal shopper agent. We were talking about this yesterday. Do you think we'll see consumers interacting with businesses through their agents?
Oh, yeah, it'll happen for sure. For you two guys, it's dead easy. Everything's dressed in black, so it'll be a very
too easy for us.
Very simple agent.
Navy?
Oh, I'm sorry, colourblind. But that was going to happen. So a friend of mine who's been chief scientist in huge organisations, he has been creating his own AI avatar of everything he's written, communicated in his life. And he's putting it all in there as an experience to understand, okay, his kids reckon it's pretty close to what he's like. So I asked if they don't talk to it. But anyway, this is where it's going to go. We've got to ensure it's a little bit better than some of the chatbots we see on websites, because I was so happy when they said we were not going to have offshore call centres anymore and they had these stupid chatbots where I keep going, I want to talk to a human. It's developing rapidly, so it has to be usable. But
And
your
that's
own
what's
personal
changed the
agent.
expectations of those chatbots, because most of the ones that are live now, I mean, speaking from experience from some of the stuff we've done at News Corp, wasn't generative AI.
No.
It's just machine learning.
Yeah.
So it was, have we put a FAQ together and is it pinging the right question and so forth. So there's a lot of those chatbots out there that have been confused with user expectations now changed. They've all used ChatGPT or Gemini or one of those, and so they're expecting more from a chatbot. It can't just be a dumb chatbot anymore.
Yeah, so the risk you then get into, and I was on a scam website the other day just chasing through to see fun, and they have chatbots on the scam website, and it comes back and said, well, there's no one here at the moment because they haven't got a real chatbot. But it looks so real because quite often chatbots say, oh, well, there's no one on the desk at the moment, which is a bit strange when it's supposed to be AI. I think it's the cross-checking issue. We'll never get this perfect. But as long as you've done everything possible to ensure your customers' security, safety, to make sure they're not being misled, that's all we can ask.
With deepfakes, with synthetic data, if we bring this back to the consumer, we have a raft of issues here. What's the government's role? What are the repercussions? How do you protect against it from a consumer protection perspective?
Okay, here's where I'm going to depress you a little bit. The area that I've been working in, the most important thing when you think about the confused world we're in and what's happening is you've really got to be honest with yourself and with others about the risks and vulnerabilities we have as a society. And this is a big one coming, right? And so if you are honest about that with yourselves and say, okay, I've got this problem, and then who do I need to work with to address it? The team. And then the third thing in this, and this is what all resilience is about, is you start to prepare for what's coming and when necessary, what we call in the military, mobilise. So shared awareness, being a team, do that. First thing you have to do is a risk assessment and be honest with ourselves. Well, the government started one in 2022 and then stopped. So right now in Australia, there is no national risk assessment. There is no national security strategy. There is no national resilience strategy. Oh, we don't have one for health, agriculture or anything else either. And so what the problem is, we haven't faced up to the reality. As a result, if you're sitting in a government department and there is no framework of what are the risks that we should be thinking about, you wait to react to a crisis. And that's exactly what's happened with the social media regulation. Oh, this has happened and there's some really good reasons to control it.
Isn't that reassuring?
But we've known this is coming for ages and you can't just deal with the societal problem with the regulation. Who else is on the team? Well, the education's on the team. You're going to have to go back to parents and say, listen, you can't offload your responsibility for this. I know you're busy. We'll try and help you parents with the toolkits and ideas so you can then help your children. But don't expect some magic regulation to work, because it's not going to happen. So in Australia, why are we like this? The report we wrote about resilience answers the question. It says, Australia, the complacent nation, our reactions are too little, too late and too short-sighted. And that's the sad reality of where we are.
Multi-level, right?
Yeah. So what I spend a lot of time when I talk to community and industry, and I do talk to the politicians, I'm going, listen, if you face reality, and we're seeing what's happening now in America is causing everyone a huge shock, not a big surprise. If we face reality, at least we're then able to do something. And we've got resources in this country. We've got a lot of intelligent people, but you can't say government's going to fix it by itself. It's a team job. Your role, I think, in the industry sector is to take this seriously and do what you can, but also, as you do through these types of things, advocate for all of us to have a serious idea and what we can do collectively as a society. Because this is not going to get any simpler. The rate that AI is being developed and deployed, often for nefarious purposes, it's here. It's been here for a long time. So, you imagine misinformation and misdirection on steroids.
Yeah.
AI in the future will be capable of fundamentally changing how people's mind thinks and their thought processes. We've seen that a bit with social media. Where we're going is it could be on steroids. So let's say that's a risk. We're not going to stop that. What do we do as Australians? That's the simple question that I put all the time.
There's a scary situation that we're in when we're not being proactive on these things by the sounds of it. Relating it back to business, and there's an AI arms race going on at the moment, right?
Absolutely.
It's moving. Every morning I wake up with some new model that's outdone the last, etc. How is Australia placed in this for opportunities for business in AI? Are we behind?
Oh, massively. Yeah. Because our research studies show that only 5% of research done by Australian universities ever makes it into business in Australia. So we do all this research and we export it because we don't have a culture in Australia like you'd have in parts of the US where there's a lot of venture capitalism, there's a lot of innovation, they're prepared to take a risk and fail. And governments, like in California, will put certain business environments there to encourage it. It's not here. So if you're a higher innovator, particularly in the AI area, the first thing you do is disappear offshore. The company that I'm now currently supporting, because I'm testing their system for them, which is interesting, the first advice to them is, okay, you need to get this demonstrated offshore for the Australian government to pay attention.
Exactly.
Now, there's some really good innovation activities happening in government, and they are trying to do it. And the CoLab, which has been set up by government, is really good. It's getting industry and government agencies together. It's a great initiative. But overall, the political level, we tend to react after something's gone wrong.
I don't think that's just political. I think that's right through into industry as well. It's a cultural phenomenon we can't seem to shake.
Which is sad. We were once known as the innovation nation, like it was the hills hoist, and it was like, we were so far away from anywhere in an age gone by that we had to innovate.
Right. Now, we can get there again. The shock that's going to ripple through the world as a result of what's happening in America and Europe, and that thing the other day with Zelensky, that shock is rippling through Europe. They're just stunned. We're a little bit further away, but it's not just about the Ukraine war. It's about the world as we know it has fundamentally changed with what the US is doing. So what do we do? 26 million people. Who else do we team with around the world? Because you can't do this by yourself. And just don't get overwhelmed by fear. Look at a problem and say, okay, this is the step I'm going to take. Innovation in key areas. What is it we need in Australia in the AI area and the business area to have a degree of sovereign control of or ownership? You don't have to own anything. It'll be limited. And therefore, what we look at, our theme is smart sovereignty where you need it, and then trusted supply chains, which is transparent, verifiable. So where you have a critical function, data centres, better make sure we have some of these in Australia under our control and not necessarily foreign owned by certain countries. There are ways we can do it, but we can't do it if we all just look at our piece of the puzzle. So when I talk to industry, I say, listen, I'm here to talk about the risk of your sector. I'm here to ask you something. Can you team up with other sectors in industry and have a different type of conversation with government and the public? Because that's what we need to do. We can do it. We just got to get some leadership.
Yeah. So, John, again, I know, and I always come back to consumers, I've pointed out. If we bring back to the businesses which are working and selling to consumers, and how do those businesses in Australia, how do we prepare ourselves? How do businesses prepare for this?
I think part of it is that shared awareness is the first number step. The limitation is you've only got a small number of resources, but whether it's through similar companies or associations, just understand what the tools are, what the limitations are. So number one, then you make a decision in your company and your customers which tool set you're going to use. then you're just going to have to manage the risk after that. And that risk area gets difficult. There is no coherent way that I can see yet to do a reliable test and evaluation of particularly large language models. So you accept that as a risk, but you do some checking. You try and do that. And so you have to go spot checks. The issue that gets me beyond this, the whole fundamental thing with AI is trust, which underneath you then got to understand ethics, responsibility and transparency. We talked about that bit. But you have to understand the bias issue. So you have to ask yourselves as a company, what biases have you got from where you're coming from, but your users have them as well. So I would say to smaller companies, is there some way you can team with some others in the sector, not in a competition issue, but understand the challenge you're all facing, working together? That's difficult sometimes because companies are reluctant to think about IP. In the case of Voodoo, because you are the interface between so many different parts of business, look at the AI tools there, make a decision what you're going to use, have some people on your team who have taken the time to research the limitations, then look at both your brand issue and your legal liability, and make sure you're talking to whatever your customers are, saying this is what we've done, we'll continue to check it, but we understand there are some limitations we're working on. But that's all you can do, transparency. There's a lot of work happening at the leading edge, which will come out pretty closely with agents. I'd say when that's developed, I would say in size of business, you've got to start thinking about agentic AI. What can you do of tools that are adapted to look at your specific problem? What I'm finding with the tools I'm using now, having done manually all this integration, it's amazing. Yes, I know there's limitations, but it allows me to go through. I can look up everything we've written in 6 years, I can't remember it, and I can ask questions of everything I've produced. That saves a huge amount of time.
Of course, yeah.
Then, we can take a whole bunch of other analysis. So a lot of these agent reports, like 50 or 60 pages, I might get 5 or 8 a day. So I can use AI to help me bring the key points out of that. So use AI as a support tool in your business. Use it to check or question yourselves. Don't rely on the answer 100%. So it's how you amplify what you can look at. Because if you try to do this manually, you'll fry your brains.
Remember the saying there's an app for that? When the App Store was, when there was an app for everything.
There's an app for that.
I think that's what we might be seeing from a consumer's perspective. There's going to be an agent for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's going to be the agent, the personal shopper. There's going to be the agent that helps you with your personal finances. I've been using it to write my training programs, for example. So I'm thinking that, there's an opportunity for small business to really get involved in this next agent explosion around their specialised area, because the garbage in, garbage out discussion, if you've got quality data that you can put into an agent that can then make the agent more effective.
But control of that agent and checking it, the security of it, is going to be absolutely fundamental. Because if someone could manipulate an agent and then you're trusting it, you've got an issue there.
So that's where Australian businesses of small, medium, large need to really understand the security implications and actually be proactive to build those into their businesses themselves.
A lot of the security processes don't know how to deal with this. So if you're looking at government where you're working in different levels of security, they're not sure how the hell they're going to do with this apart from keeping it out. And that's not the answer. So the thing we're trying to talk to them about is think of your workflow in different ways. One is unclassified, which is most of the commercial stuff. Might be a certain level of security above that where you have to put tools inside a protected environment to work on. But you've got to work in both areas because so much of what there is out on the open network, there's information you have to integrate with. I think the agents, what I've said to a couple of the government departments, I think where we're going to have the key sovereign capabilities at the agent layer, but you better understand how it's built, you better be able to control the security of it.
Back to your point earlier, how they think. I mean, if search prompts, as we know it, product discovery is how the world works right now, that's going, right? It's going to be an AI agent that's going to do the work for you. And if you don't know how that AI agent thinks, how are you going to get your product or service out to the people? Because search is not going to be there like it once was.
Comes back to my hobby horse here. You don't have one AI agent. You have at least 3.
Triple modular redundancy there.
Word for the day.
Phrase for the day.
Phrase for the day. Yeah, it's not a word, is it?
So what you do is you're going to have ability to cross-check because the assumption is that not all 3 agents will be hacked by somebody. So it's just working in a different way. But we do that as humans anyway. I mean,
of course we do.
You look at something there, from experience overseas, would you follow Google Map blindly off the edge of a half-built bridge?
I've seen Paul do it. You just bump into things.
Yeah, I know. So it's not sceptical. No. But I got to tell you, when I was flying the F-18, the whole time I was running a mental calculation in my head because I learnt to fly fighters in the Mirages, which we called dinosaurs. And they didn't have any avionics. Everything was done in your head, calculating how you change everything else. So when I got to the F-18, we were doing the same thing. The new pilots coming in saw all these beautiful displays and trusted it. So when something went wrong in the aeroplane, that really caught them off.
Yeah, of course.
That gets a bit risky. So what we said to people, in your mind, you've got to have your own mental model of what you're doing and what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Don't outsource that last check.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to teach people how to have that mental model about the world in this case. Then you can use multiple agents, because if you can produce one AI agent, I've got to tell you can produce 2 or 3, and you just tell them to talk to each other and find out what's going on. I mean, it sounds a bit strange, but...
No, it's strange times. But
it's strange times.
Yeah.
So use the technology to see if the technology is doing something to you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm not an engineer, but that was just strange.
Now we're going to get into quick fire questions. We love this. Everybody loves this. And we had a bit of fun here, given your flight background. So, you ready? Quick fire. Ooh, you should be quick.
Can I eject?
Okay. F-16 or F-18?
F-18.
We'll unpack another day. Maverick or Goose?
I'd go for Maverick. He lived.
Yeah, that's a good one. Terminator 1 or Terminator 2?
Oh, God, I'll go for one.
Original.
Yeah.
Best AI platform you've used?
The one I'm using now, which is a research development one, is stunning.
Okay.
It's called Dragonfly Systems.
Dragonfly. Watch out for it. Last thing you bought online? Be careful.
It was a mug. So what happened, we went to this conference in Dubai, and I, of course, produced an AI song about being at this conference, and the AI image that came out with the song was a dragonfly over Dubai, because the Burj, the 124-story building. And it's an amazing picture. And we got over there and we showed it a picture. They were more excited about the AI image of a dragonfly over the town. So I came back, and I've now got these photo mugs.
You put it on a mug.
I put it on a mug with that, and I gave it a day before yesterday, to the creator of the whole system, and she was really chuffed. So the latest thing I bought was an AI image created on a mug for the founder of the AI company.
So creative.
You're very creative. And just to not let this opportunity go, you're also pretty good with that, creating songs. For anyone that wants to see the song.
So we actually had a song about Nick, because not today, but Nick has an amazing style with a man bun and a goatee bit.
Okay.
I have a long family connection with Nick, so I know his history. So we made a song up, which I've now said given the company copyright to put on the website, if you like.
Cue the song into this podcast. We'll all hear
not
it.
bad.
It's not bad. Listen to the song.
Pretty good.
AI is incredible.
As all I said to him, I wrote all the words, but the AI did the music. But I said, Nick, I was actually being nice about you for once.
Okay, all right. Enough of that about me. Last one for you. If you had to pick a wingman, would you pick an AI pilot fresh out of beta or a rookie with 8 hours of training?
Oh, I'd pick the AI pilot.
Oh,
well, no, it's a quick reason here.
Yeah.
To create a fighter pilot, so when I went through, you'd join the Air Force, you'd have 18 months of intensive training to get your wings. Then you go and do about 6 months, in those days, on a jet just to get yourself qualified. Then for the first time, you get to the fighter aeroplane. Then you spend 6 months learning to fly that aeroplane, learning the context, but you're still not operational. After that, there's another 6 months in the squadron to get operational. And I use that in one way. People seem to think you get the most complex problems in AI and go, oh, what's the answer? Well, it's like becoming a fighter pilot. You've got to have a lot of preparation. It takes a huge amount of time to learn the tool. Then you have to understand the context. And then once you've done that, you've got to get proficient at using it. So an AI tool with all those things, a bog rat with 8 hours, no.
Yep, straight in the ear.
Come back in 2 years. But people don't understand how long it takes to learn to choose very complex systems. I mean, your life's involved as well, because it's fairly dangerous. But you still want to get an instant answer for a complex problem out of an AI system that's under development? Come on, get serious. We've got to take that time to do the conversion course. We've got to take the time to learn to use it. And then you've got to go to the squadron, which is like Voodoo.
Of course.
And after 6 months in Voodoo, you become a whip just like you, mate. Mate.
Sure. Much faster than I do, I can tell you that. An incredible team. John, amazing as always. I really appreciate the conversation.
It's always good to meet another Blackburn. Thank you for joining us here.
Thank God we met here in Melbourne. I actually asked AI, right, why the AI thought that the two Blackburns came together all these years with you. And this is seriously what ChatGPT said. It could be the man-bun goatee power combo. Let's be honest, only a man truly confident in his own legend would dare such a stylistic fusion in the year 2025. The Blackburns, drawn to this bold aesthetic statement, might have been compelled to witness it firsthand like pilgrims travelling to a sacred shrine of facial hair and follicular defiance. That came from Chat. with a bit of prompting. It came from
Yeah,
ChatGPT. There's the ChatGPT
Solid,
reply.
solid prompting, I would say. Solid prompting.
Thanks,
Thank you, John.
ChatGPT.
Fantastic.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Commerce Media Matters podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're always on the pulse of the ever-changing landscape of commerce media, ready to share the newest trends, insightful perspectives, and expert opinions with you. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep making media that matters. This podcast is executively produced and edited by Priya Tahazadeh, with co-producers Sandy Ho, Meg Lirsch, and me, Rachel Fang. This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Bidjigal, Gadigal, and Wurundjeri people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land.